Hello students, let's learn English at home. Same to same. We look same. We are twins. Our color is same. Our height, our weight, our limbs, our noses, our eyes, our ears, all are same. Same to same. Our birthday is same. Our classes are same. You are unable to identify us. Our neighbors get confused, our relative get confused, even our mother also gets confused to identify us. My English course book standard 10. I am Mr. Pandurang Pawale, वसंतराव मांजरे विद्यालय मांजरेवाडी, तालुका खेड. Today we are going to learn a poem from unit 2nd, The Twins. The twins, two babies born at the same time are called twins. The poem The Twins is composed by Henry Shamrook Lee. In the poem The Twins, the poet or the speaker Henry Shamrook Lee has written the problems in his own life. He grew like his brother. His brother John and he, means Henry, were twin brothers. So they were looking so same to same, and the poet says this is the tragedy or sorrow in their life. When his brother John committed some mistakes, the punishment were always given to the poet. The poet says this is the tragedy in their life. They were looking so same to same, so one could fail to identify them. Their neighbors, their relatives, even sometimes their family members, their mother also failed to identify them. The poet exaggerated some incidents in this poem. In one incident, poet says when their names were being fixed, before fixing their names, they were being bathed by the nurse, and the nurse made a mistake. They were being mixed. So, poet's name was given to his brother John. In the second incident, poet says his intended bride became his brother's wife. And in the last stanza, poet says when he died, the neighbors came and buried Mr. John, poet's brother. Though the poet exaggerated these incidents in this poem, but he made some balance and made the reader to believe on his poem. As a reader, we can't control our laugh while reading this poem. Let's read the poem. In form and feature, face and limb, I grew so like my brother that fox got taking me for him and each for one another. It puzzled all our kith and kin. It reached a fearful pitch, for one of us was born a twin, yet not a soul knew which. One day, to make the matter worse, before our names were fixed, as we were being washed by nurse, we got completely mixed, and thus, you see, by fate's decree, or rather nurse's whim, my brother John got christened me, and I got christened him. This fatal likeness even dogged my footsteps when at school, and I was always getting flogged, for John turned out a fool. I put this question fruitlessly to everyone I knew. What would you do if you were me to prove that you were you? Our close resemblance turned the tide of my domestic life, for somehow my intended bride became my brother's wife. In fact, year after year, the same absurd mistakes went on, and when I died, the neighbors came and buried Brother John. First line, the poet writes, in form and feature, face and limb, I grew so like my brother. It means the poet writes here. Form and feature, it means structure and appearance. And limb, it means the parts of our body. The poet writes here, he and his brother were so alike. It means their faces were same, their limbs, it means hands, legs, chest, head, all are same. Like poet says that fox got taking me for him and each for one another. It puzzled all our kith and kin. It means fox means people and kith and kin it means relatives. In these lines, the poet says people were so confused to identify poet and his brother. In the next lines, poet writes, it reached a fearful pitch, for one of us was born a twin, yet not a soul knew which. The pitch, it means limit, and soul, it means a person. This confusion reached at out of limit. It was very fearful. No person could identify them. The second stanza, one day, to make the matter worse, before our names were fixed, as we were being washed by nurse, we got completely mixed, and thus, you see, by fate's decree, or rather nurse's whim, my brother John got christened me, and I got christened him. The word's meaning, decree, it means order, and fate's decree, it means God's order. To Christian, it means to name, and whim, it means sudden change of mind. In this stanza, poet tells us that when their names were being fixed, for fixing their names, they were being asked by nurse, but the nurse made a mistake, and so his intended name was given to his brother. In the third stanza, this fatal likeness even dogged my footsteps when at school, and I was always getting flogged, for John turned out a fool. I put this question fruitlessly to everyone I knew. What would you do if you were me to prove that you were you? The poet complains about when he was in the school, the failure or fatal changed him the school also. When his brother John committed some mistakes, he was beaten by the teacher. And then he asked the question fruitlessly to everyone what he would do to prove that he was Henry, the poet, and not John. The last stanza, our close resemblance turned the tide of my domestic life, for somehow my intended bride became my brother's wife. In fact, year after year, the same absurd mistakes went on, and when I died, the neighbors came and buried Brother John. The word meanings resemblance, being alike, turn the tide, change the things, absurd, illogical. The poet complains in the last stanza, there was a horrible change in his domestic life because his intended bride became his brother's wife. And when he died, poet complains, when he died, the neighbors came and buried his brother John. ही कविता हेनरी सॅम्ब्रो यांनी लिहिलेली आहे. कवी म्हणतात की मी जुळा म्हणून जन्माला आलो नकळत हा माझ्या दृष्टिकोनातून फार मोठा शाप ठरला गेला. कारण का की ते हुबेहूब त्यांच्या भावासारखे दिसायचे आणि म्हणून अगदी जवळचे नातेवाईक सुद्धा त्यांना ओळखू शकत नव्हते आणि म्हणून त्यामुळं त्यांच्या जीवनामध्ये अनेक भयंकर वाईट प्रसंग घडले. पहिल्या प्रसंगात ते सांगतात की जेव्हा त्यांचं नामकरण होणार होतं, बारसं होणार होतं, तेव्हा कवीला ठरवलं गेलेलं अगोदरचं नाव जॉन हे त्यांच्या भावाला दिलं गेलं. कारण का की नाव ठेवण्याच्या अगोदर त्यांना जी नर्स आंघोळ घालण्यासाठी गेलेली होती त्या नर्सच्या चुकीमुळं ते एकमेकांमध्ये अगदी मिसळले गेले आणि त्यामुळं ते इतरांना ओळखू शकले नाहीत. पुढे कवी म्हणतात हे त्यांचं दुर्दैव अगदी शाळेमध्ये सुद्धा त्यांच्या वाट्याला आलं. कारण जेव्हा जेव्हा शाळेमध्ये त्यांचा भाऊ चूक करायचा तेव्हा शिक्षा मात्र अगदी कवीलाच मिळायची आणि म्हणून कवी जे कोणी त्यांच्या ओळखीचे भेटायचे त्यांना हाच प्रश्न निरर्थकपणे विचारायचे की तुम्ही काय केलं असतं, की तुम्ही हेनरी आहात हे समजावून सांगण्यासाठी. तर अशा प्रकारे त्यांच्या या जुळेपणाचं दुर्दैव संपूर्ण त्यांच्या आयुष्यभर चाललं गेलं. कवी अगदी शेवटच्या कडेमध्ये अतिशय विनोदाने त्यांच्या जीवनातील भयंकर प्रसंग सांगतात की जेव्हा त्यांचं लग्न ठरलं गेलं तेव्हा त्यांची ठरवली गेलेली मुलगी त्यांच्या भावाची बायको झाली आणि मग अशा प्रकारच्या अगदी चुकीच्या गोष्टी त्यांच्या जीवनामध्ये होत गेला. एवढंच नव्हे तर जेव्हा कवी हे गेले तेव्हा शेजारी लोक आले आणि त्यांच्या भावालाच पुरलं गेलं. तर अशा प्रकारे अशा अर्थाची ही एक कवीने एक विनोदी कविता या ठिकाणी रेखाटलेली आहे. ही कविता वाचत असताना वाचकांना एक चांगल्या प्रकारचा आनंद मिळतो, परंतु कवी एक जुळा म्हणून जन्माला आल्यावर आपल्या स्वतःच्या वाट्याला जे दुःख येतं ते दुःख या कवितेमध्ये मांडण्याचा प्रयत्न केलेला आहे.